Welcome to MarkWHO77, the interview show where we interview comic creators from Great Britain in conjunction with the 77 publications. I'm your host, Mark Baumgarten. With me over there, and I'm pointing, I don't know which direction I'm pointing. You can see my logos are reversed. Right there. He's pointing to it. It's Ben Cullis, the editor-in-chief of the 77 publications. Hey, Ben.
Hi again, Mark.
So in the last episode, episode 12A, we were interviewing Richee.
Is he still here?
He's still here. We have more to come. Now, Vicky Jakubowski's here too. I don't know where she is for this, but she's here. Can you remind everyone who Richee is, Ben?
Sure. Well, Richee, he has a vast role of experience. He's a filmmaker, he's an animator, he's a professional musician. With regards to the 77 publications, as part of being a fan, which is really, really useful, he came on board and produced a fantastic promo video, which is, I believe, at the beginning of 12A.
Yes, if you watch the last episode, right after the introduction, you will see the video in its entirety.
Right. When it's only 42 seconds, so it's not going to be taking a whole lot of your
that's
time.
entirety. 42 seconds. 42. Mm-hmm. Hey, that works. 42 seconds. I love that.
I was told not to go for 77 because the attention span and TikTok and things don't work that way. So, Okay. 42 is the answer to life, the universe, and TikTok.
I guess TikTok is everything. And now let's go to our interview in progress with Richee Mathwin. I want to let Ben ask a question, but I have one thing I want to ask first, a little background. Mm-hmm. So I went to school for TV radio production, for editing and directing and things like that. And I never finished it. I learned on my own a few skills, but but you got your BSc in Multimedia Technology at Leeds Metropolitan University, and then completed your MA in film at the Northern Film School. So I ask you, where did I go wrong?
Well,
no, but seriously, what did you learn in your education? What did it help you do?
Right. So
besides be a success.
Yeah. Well, moderate. Growing up, as most kids, like I said, I came from a really sleepy fishing town with a small population where everyone looked the same and acted the same. And I've always said that I've always wanted to make, just a little side note, I've always wanted to make a reinterpretation of H.P. Lovecraft's Shadow over Innsmouth, but set it in that area of the country, because that's the mentality, the fear of the outsider in my hometown. That's the mentality. That's why everyone leaves. Well, all of the sensible people leave. The ones that can read anyway. I went to me and my friends after school. We made little horror films. We made zombie films in his house. Loads of kids start this way, making films with it. They get a video camera. What can we do? Right, make film. What type of film? Well, it's not going to be a drama. That's boring. Horror film? Yeah, cool. We can splash loads of fake blood everywhere. That type of thing. And the go-to was, this was before the zombie craze. Well, I suppose the second zombie craze. So between you sort of like Day of the Dead, and then really, I think the resurgence was 28 days later, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Silly running zombies. That's not a zombie. Well, that's another matter altogether. Anyway, so we made lots of short films in the woods, as people do. I mean, we made one film one time, and we actually we cut down loads of dead trees and we built an entire shack, like Evil Dead style shack.
Okay.
Oh! Yeah. We built loads of, it took 2 weeks. We built the shack. We got, we'd seen one of my friends. This was with the guy I said is my best man, the guy who's going to do the illustrations for me. His neighbors were getting their windows changed, and their old windows were fine, and they'd been taken out the frame, and we were like, can we have them? They were like, yeah, fine. So fixed them in, and then we had one take at smashing through a window with a hammer like a zombie sort of coming through and all this stuff. So we did. So that's the type of stuff we were doing. So it was always on my mind to do that. Whereas I think a lot of my other friends, when we were doing it, they were doing it for the fun of it, but there was only really a couple of us who were doing it because we wanted to make films. Right. And I was really the only one who sort of followed that up. They all kind of went on in more traditional, what you'd say, academic studies after school. So, like, obviously in the UK, we go to school until we're 16, and then you can go to college until you're 18, and then you can go to university until you're 21 or whenever you want, really. But that's generally the ages that it happens. So when after secondary school, or high school as it were, when everyone went off to college, we all stayed in the same town. But at first, I wanted to study music, and I went away to a college nearby, Middlesbrough, which is not too far away, to study music. And I hated it. I absolutely hated it. it sucked the enjoyment out of it for me. It made it too clinical. It made it too sort of like, this is how you do this. Whereas I was just like, well, I would rather just feel it like this. That's just kind of the way I am with music. So I then transferred and went to the college in my hometown, and I did it was film and television production. It's only college, so it was sort of basic, but it was more based around live studio production. So, you know, you had your guys in the booth, you had your cameraman on the floor, you know, your production manager communicating with them, camera one, camera two, this type of thing that you know you see still on television now, really. After that, I went to university in Leeds. But before my PSc, I actually did go back to university to do music again. I went to Leeds College of Music, which is now called the Leeds Conservatoire, believe it or not. I mean, some amazing musicians have come from there. Absolutely fantastic musicians are all like, you know, two around the world. Now, people come from around the world to study there. It's connected to the BBC building in Leeds. So they get the musicians to act as the in-house band sometimes. And right next door is a venue, which is like a jazz cafe. So a lot of musicians will play there. And yet again, I hated it. And so I didn't learn, did I? No. So I then took time out. I went back to the Northeast for a little while. And at that point, when I was 17, I then got together with my now wife. We've been together since we were teenagers. And she went to university in Leeds, and I was jumping back and forwards to go and see her. And eventually I just thought, you know what, I'm going to try university again. So I looked for something which would be of interest to me. And I then followed her in a second year through to Leeds. And that's why I did BSc Multimedia Tech. And I basically picked it because I've always been of the view, and I'm glad to say on one hand that I think I was kind of right. I felt at the time that the industry was very much moving in the way of people being multidisciplined. So gone were the days of saying I'm a writer director, because then you had to get an entire crew of people. Things were so accessible to, I mean, you know, we're sat here talking to each other from other sides of the world. You know what I mean? That technology is amazing now, the things you can do on your own in a little nerd cave. So I was like, right, I think I need a more broad approach to filmmaking and being creative with film and television. So I did multimedia technology, which entailed me doing green screen and motion capture, 3D animation, that type of thing, with a little bit of video thrown in, audio work, and that type of thing. Because I thought it would give me, because I wanted to be a director mainly, I thought it would give me an easier way and a more efficient way to communicate with the people I was working with in those departments to get my ideas across. Because I've met so many directors, and you try to talk to them about like what's going to happen in the edit, and they're like, "Oh, I don't understand that. No, don't worry, it's not my department." And it's like, well, it should be. You should know what all the departments do.
Yeah.
So that was my approach to that. And then after that, when I went for my MA, I knew I could focus on the film side. So I went to the Northern Film School in Leeds, which was brilliant. I know Christopher Nolan went there for, I think, about 6 months. He did a transfer at one point. So it's a prestigious place. It's easily one of the best in the north of England, if not the entire country. And that was actually, it still is, part of Leeds Metropolitan University. It's sort of just a different faculty. Just to say, Leeds Metropolitan University is called Leeds Beckett University. Now, they changed the name because there was it was some sort of something to do with metropolitan being a term which made it sound not as good as other universities. Total rubbish. But anyway, I went there for 2 years, and that was really good because they didn't really teach you much. They basically, everyone was there doing the disciplinaries. So I was doing directing and editing, and there was producers there, there was actors, there was camera, there was you know, everything you can think of, really, people there studying. And the entire gist was that you would work together, create a film, they'd give you a small budget, and you'd go and shoot it. But the best thing that they did give me there, well, two things really. One was just network, and the amount of people you got to know anyhow was just, you know, you had this huge pool of people anyway, and then you knew all the people they knew, and so on and so forth. But the main thing I think I enjoyed the most was it gives us the opportunity to shoot on film. So I shot on 16mm and 35mm a few times, which you do not get to do at all now. And it was at that period when digital was coming in as well. So I was shooting. So one day I'd be shooting 16mm, which has been around since like 70 years or something. and then the next day I was shooting on the new red cameras that a guy had brought in, which at the current time Peter Jackson was using on his films. So it was like a really weird time to give me opportunity to use things and create with things that I wouldn't have been able to afford to do. And it made me very disciplined. Shooting on film made me incredibly disciplined, because when I started shooting on film, you have a shooting ratio. So that basically means for every shot you do, how many takes do you do? So my ratio was around about 8-1 when I first started, which is a lot of money.
You also got to buy the film stock as well.
Exactly, that's the thing, yeah.
Oh.
So, but by the end of it, I got to 3-1.
Oh.
So that's kind of what
Nice.
I'm at now. I'm really efficient with my takes. I can get what I need really in 2-3 takes. And you just, because you've got to bear in mind when you're shooting on film, every second of that film ticking over, as Ben said, it's costing you money. Every
Yeah.
single bit, that's more processing fees, more film as it's ticking over. So you're there, and you've got to get really good at basically saying, right, okay, are we set? Camera, we set. Camera says they're set. Right, okay, sound, roll sound, sound rolling. Camera set, still set. Yeah, camera's still set. Roll camera, camera's rolling. Okay, and action. Pause for 2 beats, then act.
Yeah.
And you've got to get down really quick. And then when the scene's finished, straight away you just want to go. You want to straight away just everyone you want to go cut. But then you get into the edit and you're like, oh, I've got no tail end on the shot. Oh, bollocks! You haven't got enough at the end of the shot.
Oh.
So then you go the other way and you're like, and then you're waiting too long before you say cut. And it's so that getting to shoot on that gave me like this really good discipline of how to shoot things, to the point now where I've shot smaller things for television channels and they're like, oh, it's really good. Like, who shot that? I'm like, oh, I shot it. You were directing though? Yeah, I was. I produced it too. All right, so who edited it? No, I edited it as well. Because it gave me the discipline in the learning all of those multidisciplines to begin with, and then the actual set etiquette later on to just be really efficient at making things. Really quick turnover of things, but the quality does not suffer. So my answer to your question that I just answered over the course of
where did I go wrong? Yes,
you didn't go wrong.
Okay,
you just did something else. You know, I always say that to people, it's working in the arts is hard. It's really hard. You can have 2 months where you feel like you're a millionaire, weekend millionaire, as they say, and then you'll have months where you've not got much work coming in and you just kind of like scraping by. It's nerve-wracking sometimes working for yourself and doing that. But ultimately, if I wasn't doing it, I'd be on a 9 to 5, and no exaggeration, I probably wouldn't be around. I couldn't. I wouldn't be able to hack it. I wouldn't be able to hack a 9 to 5 in an office. I just couldn't do it. And that may sound kind of like, bloody sort of kind of like, selfish and self-entitled and whatnot.
I don't think so.
I wouldn't be very fulfilled at all doing that.
No.
So you didn't go wrong. You didn't. Yes.
Thank you. So we've been talking, and Ben's been sat in the corner this whole time, and he's been listening.
So patient.
But he hasn't said any
questions. My question will be the final question, but I just want to shout out. So shout out to Lona Bonato, who got a first at Leeds Metropolitan with her piece of work that she did for Joe Healy's Pandora. So she did cartooning and illustration, and her work is included in Pandora, and she's also featuring in the annual number 2, which is kickstarting at the moment as well.
Nice.
We caught up with her. So Leeds Metropolitan had a stand at Harrogate this week. We always make a point of going to say hi because we want to impress upon the students there. They're usually second-year students who go. That I think it's something that they can get involved in. I think cartooning, sequential work fits into so many areas. You look at how the crossovers between storyboarding, directing, people go through various things. So some people that we know and use are like storyboarders were for Game of Thrones through 2000 AD, and Mike Collins was at Doctor Who, and so it's something I think which is a joint thing. So my question is, Richie, you did a great job on producing the film that we watched earlier, the short clips of the promo for Lifeboat. I have a suggestion for a voice talent that I'd like to have for Deanie, the main female protagonist. How do we get Karen Gillan on board?
Right, that's a tough one. Right, okay. I am of Scottish heritage, so
that makes all the difference. Yes.
So obviously,
I've seen her play those bagpipe things as well at a friend's party.
That would be great. Yeah, that would be great casting that, Ben. I like that idea a lot.
So we have to work on that. So I'm going to come back to you. I'll ask you next week.
Well, I had when we were doing because the voiceovers in it were all, other than the child, that was my son, but pitch shifted right up because he's 14 now, so he's kind of he's all over the place. So he's pitch shifted up. That's my son doing the child with the
Leave my mum alone.
Yeah, that Leave My Mum Alone. Yeah, and alien fella, the big lizard fella, that was me. And then all the others is all one guy. And we were talking when we were in the room when we were doing it. He was literally stood like here next to me. I've got a microphone set up right here. And he was trying out all these different voices. And I did want to do one of her lines, but we just couldn't find anyone on the day to be able to do it. He was trying to pull in some favors because he does a lot of voiceover work for. He works in a lot of films and television on the BBC, things like that. But he's a good friend of mine, and we were trying to get someone in, and that would have been good casting, that, Ben. Unfortunately, I think I've mislaid her number. I'll give her...
Okay, I'll ask my friend to get in touch with her then, whose party she went to. So
yeah, do it. Just say, I don't know what, just...
We just get her doing it over a wire, yeah, basically.
Yeah,
is that right?
Yeah.
Send her a big box of chocolates or
something or other. Yeah.
Well,
Well, there's going to be more. We were talking earlier. Book 2 is going to happen, and
brilliant.
I was speaking to some people, as you invariably do. You get lots of people approach you talking about sort of digital media and stuff, and you know, Ian's very happy for Lifeboat to go as far as it possibly can, and I think some kind of treatment would be really worth looking at. I think really his work is such a quality, and you know, I think a space opera is always a good place to start with, isn't it? It's
true.
You can't go too wrong, really.
Well, that's kind of, I think I said that was my approach to it when I was doing it. I was thinking, like, what can I do? Because we talked, we wanted something a little bit more short form for this, not too long. So I was like, right, what should we do? And after reading it, I was like, right, space opera, okay. Trailer, film trailer. So I treated it like a film trailer. That's kind of what was my approach. Went through, selected the images, thought about what lines I think were punchy lines that would kind of make people go, but not give anything to do with the plot away. And just treated like that, treated like a trailer. I've made hundreds, so I treated like that. That was the easy part. The hard part then was I then started to select what I wanted to move and do within the image. But of course, I didn't have any of those images as separate layers. So when an object's moving against another object, I had to isolate that object, and then I had to just recreate what I thought was behind it. So what you're seeing behind that moving object isn't Ian's work. That's me duplicating Ian's work. So there is something for it to move past. That was the most time-consuming part. Sort of idea would come together.
And anyone who's seen it or has the book anyway, Ian did it analog. I mean, I still have the painted pages, some left. We've sold most of them on behalf of fundraising for Ian.
Yeah.
It wasn't digital. If it was digital, maybe that would have been a slightly different solution. Would have been, you know, an opportunity to do it in a slightly different way. And I did love the way that you did it. You said you had to do sort of fill in graphic work and yeah, there's some clever stuff that can be done, but you still need to actually put the hours in to do it, don't you? So
you do, that's the thing, and that's, I think, you know, sometimes if you can do something like that and it can go up on the screen and people see it and they don't say that was clever, often that's the best praise, because you, even though you spent a lot of time, you've made it look, they can't see the cracks, and that's like what's really important, that type of thing, to make it, to give it sort of an immersion. To give it an immersion. That's,
but it's still got its very much its hand-drawn quality, hasn't it? That's the point. It's not been digitized in out of all recognition, and that's why I think the crossover is really interesting. Is that it would be fascinating to take on board a project where you said we want it to be honouring the actual medium that it is the source material of. I think that would be an interesting concept, rather than saying, "Oh, let's just make a film based on a comic." Why not do something digitally based actually on the comic medium as well? And I think that's still things which people, you know, well, look, we all remember the Aha video. That's, you know, that was breathtaking at the time, but it honors the fact that, you know, it's saying here's the source material, and people remember that much more than all of the glossy schmeely films that came out afterwards.
It still sticks.
Yeah. It does. But there we go. It's a big thank you as well. And I mean, Ian's seen it and appreciates it.
I'm glad.
Myself and Steve were just like, you know, we loved it. So
thank you. Well, it's like, you know, like I said, going back to what I was saying about trying to train in multidisciplinary, if I hadn't have done that, wouldn't have been able to do it, because I would have just been a director, and I would have, I don't know what does this key do? Just sort of match the keyboard until images sprouted to life. But you know, it was fun. I enjoyed it. And I will definitely be doing more, because it was really enjoyable to work on something that I enjoyed. I've been looking for a long time to try and use my skills in the sort of the comic industry, But same with the video game industry as well. I've been trying the same there, and it's sort of a difficult one to sort of dip into. But yes, it was a treat. So thank you, Ben, for having me do it.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, we talked very briefly. I wanted to say one thing. So you guys were talking about Commodores and all this.
Yeah.
So I was PS1, the original PlayStation.
Yeah.
One of the most important games, and I don't think it often goes back to people saying, was it Rapapa?
Oh, Parappa the Rapper.
Rapapa the Rapper.
Yeah.
Because of the way that it worked and synced between various types of animation. And a game like that has got a lot more influence than the shoot 'em ups, which
Totally. Everyone remembers it because it was unique, because it was all of the images were completely two-dimensional.
Yeah.
But you did move behind the characters, and when you did, you could see they were two-dimensional. That was the cool thing. They were sort of like, they looked almost like cutouts because they bent in a
That's
very
right. That's right. It's folding, wasn't it? Yeah.
So yeah, you're right, totally. I love that game. It was great. I can still remember a lot of the songs. It was weird.
Absolutely. You see, they're the things.
Yeah, good point. Oh, comic books for all.
Well, speaking
not just about comic books, but we've talked a lot about films. We've talked a lot about your work, and I really appreciate that. I mean, I studied film. I've worked in animation and such like, and haven't done for a while now. But the reason I really appreciated what you've done is because I just know how hard it is to do that sort of stuff. Not, I think we never really waste our time talking about those people that just press a button having collected a few words, if you know what I mean.
I do.
I'm not saying it's all about the grist and the sweat and the toil, but I like to see people's humanity in their work rather than it just being something which is soulless and, just a collection of stuff scraped from the World Wide Web, which is
I think you make a really good point there about it. It doesn't always have to be the sweat and toil there, because the sort of the last generation of filmmakers, particularly editors, they hated anything that made their job easier. It even if it didn't trivialize the skills, but any sort of new software that made it easier, they would be like, no, I must punish myself, and they'd be flagellating themselves.
I agree with that.
You mentioned Nolan in your conversation, and watch Oppenheimer. It's all in camera, isn't it? And that's admirable, more than admirable. That's astonishing. And
I'm a practical sort of guy, I have a lot of sort of digital filmmaking skills, but I'm all about the practical. I mean, practical special effects are still my I'm still.
I really wonder, with the conversation about the MCU this week and Marvel's being the lowest grossing film, I just really wonder. It's not. You can't throw a glib comment in and just say people are sick and tired of this or that or got bored. But I think people actually respond to authenticity, and we all know that MCU is just one great big green screen.
There's a total disconnect between it. I mean, it's a little bit better. I think there is a disconnect between the viewer and the actual film. But by the same token, you get the problem, which I know Ewan McGregor had massively on the Star Wars prequels, was he couldn't react to anything because he couldn't see it. So it got a lot better when they started using the full digital LED screens that they used on the Mandalorian. I was lucky enough to actually film on one of those a few months ago. They've got one in Wakefield near me. The place that they have it's a huge sort of hangar. It's the second largest in Europe, and it's where all of the sort of arena acts go to run their shows. So like when I was there, Lady Gaga was there when I was there the first time. Hugh Jackman was there the time before doing The Greatest Showman. And right next to it in the same building they've got one of those studios, and I had to play on it. And the difference it makes on people just being able to react to something they can see.
I mean,
that's what you say about acting is that was my first career, and it really is reacting. And for it to be believable,
theatre actors,
it is so hard.
Cope better, don't they? Because they're all about looking at an audience and having to imagine the world behind them.
It is so much easier for me to have an audience and to have another actor that I'm dealing with. And I think that, and I'm just going to say, and I love movies. My wall of movies speaks to it. And my biggest problem is I don't like movie theaters right now because I don't like the other people in it. The last time I saw a movie, I had a guy vaping next to me and a screaming baby on the other side. And so it just and I'm a person who prior to 2020 literally went every Friday night. I would take my entire family, and that was extended family, my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law, my niece, and we would all go to the movie theaters like every Friday, and we would find something to watch. Yeah. I tried to pick the movies every time, but and I have a wide variety of taste, obviously. And we would go to the movies all the time, and now I go like once a quarter, and I want to go. I want to see these movies in the movie theater.
Yeah,
I just don't want to deal with these other people.
I agree. But I mean, here, I don't know what the case is in the US, but especially in this part of the country where I am, there's a lot of very good single screen cinemas, very old sort of old theaters that have, you know, been around for a couple of hundred years. So some of them, Hyde Park Picture House in Leeds, Cottage Road Cinema, and they're the ones I'll go to because people tend to have better cinema etiquette there. You know, the type of place where you go where people will give a little round of applause.
Yeah, it's really hard to find those. Yeah. I'm not even sure where I have anything like that in this town. Yeah, everything is brand new or built in the last 10 years.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the problem. I mean, I mentioned the Hyde Park Picture House there. Beautiful theatre and cinema in Leeds, and it's the only cinema in the UK that is still lit with gas lights. They've got gas lamps on the walls, and it's lit with them. And they always advertise this. Little story for you. They always advertise this. A few years ago, I was a judge on the Leeds Children's Film Festival. We'll do the International Film Festival, do the Children's Film Festival. So I was a judge on it. I got talking with the people who are running it in that cinema. I was like, it's pretty cool. Those lights, they look amazing, they flicker and all this sort of stuff. And she said, yeah. She said, you do know why we've still got them, right? And I was like, why? She said, we can't locate the original plans for the building, so we're not quite sure where all the gas pipes run.
Oh my God. Well, then that's a good reason. Just keep it as is.
Yeah. Just don't light a cigarette or something in there. But those places are amazing. You know, I've seen last time I was there, I saw Nosferatu with a guy on a Hammond organ playing the music live.
Wow. Oh my God, I haven't seen anything like that in years.
Yeah.
I would kill to see that.
Well, come over and we'll go.
I'm gonna go do that.
She is coming over in May.
I'm coming over next year, so
she's kicked off the show because she's
I'm coming over for Lawless next year.
In that case, you're only going to be 14 miles away from one of those in Bristol. You've got to go down to the Curzon Cinema.
I'm going to have to come down so we're going to have to add that to the list of things we're going to do.
Yeah.
But you know, it just, and I agree with you guys. When I go to see a movie like an MCU movie, I'm going for a specific set of mind. I'm not going for Shakespeare. I'm not going for Lord of the Rings. I'm going to have fun. Yeah. And I know it's all green screen, and I know it's a different state of mind. Yeah. And I have fun at them and I enjoy them, but I'm going to be struggling to go see them in the movie theaters because I don't like the rest of the people. Yeah, you know, I'm going to go see something that I really want to go see in the movie theaters. And I'm willing to put up with the crazies.
Yeah. That's
what I'm going to go to the movie theaters for.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why a lot of the TV shows have been more popular than the films lately, because you can just watch.
I was actually going to ask that, Ben. So the box office has been bad. Has the reception of Loki season 2 been any good? Because I haven't.
It's been huge.
It has been huge. Yeah, so it's not Marvel.
Yeah, people are talking about it. Yeah.
So it's not Marvel in general. It's just that the Marvels may not be what people want to see. Because I remember Ant-Man and Wasp: Quantumania. That was a low box. I mean, it's like the box office has been going like that.
Well, I'd also like to point out, because the movies cost so much to make, it's not that if it was anything other than MCU, they'd be doing really well.
Yeah.
But because they cost so much to make, they're doing really bad.
Gotcha.
I think people get I think people get, you know, there's the fatigue, which people say, the superhero.
Yeah.
But I think another thing, this is a personal opinion of mine. I think they backed themselves into the corner too much going with multiverse things, because it meant everything had to be connected. So it meant thematically and the feeling of the films had to be similar. So you were getting a similar sort of feel, and people couldn't go off a little bit and make them a little bit more. They did earlier on, but later on, they all that sort of feel the same because that character had to appear in this film and they have to meet in this film. So I think the TV stuff has the opportunity to make things a little bit slightly different. I mean, what was it, Werewolf at Midnight? I loved that. I thought it was great.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Man thing in it at the end, so any creature with tentacles in its face, because I'm a big Lovecraft
that was
fan.
So great.
Oh, yes. You know, and shooting it in, well, they didn't shoot it in black and white, but releasing it in black and white, you know, you can get away with that with one of the films. You know, I mean, I think the last film I ever heard of that wanted to be released in black and white but wasn't allowed to be was The Mist, Stephen King's The Mist.
Okay.
That would have been good in black and white.
It's on the Blu-ray.
Oh, that would have been great.
The black and white version is on the Blu-ray. It's
really really?
Good. Yeah, it's really good. So I think the TV shows give them a bit more freedom to do what they want with it, to be honest.
I think so too. And then like what you said, because I think although there's matte paintings and there is CGI, when you look at like the Obi-Wan TV show versus the movies, and you know, I love Lucas, but George is so into the latest and greatest. And he's always been this way since film school. He really has been. So his love with the digital took him down that path. And with the later movies and with the TV shows where they're using more practical effects. And I think we feel it. And I think that's why the TV shows, whether you're talking Andor, The Mandalorian, Boba Fett, Ahsoka, and the Obi-Wan, they feel more genuine because there are so many practical effects. And I'm a huge respecter of practical effects. The fact that there are some effects that we have been using since, you know, Georges Méliès back in 1920, whatever. And we're still using the matte paintings and some of the other effects that he created back then, and they work. And they're amazing, and then you use CGI to maybe smooth it out or add the lights that you can't quite get
That's
right.
What I've always said, it should be used to augment, and it shouldn't be used to just rely on. I mean, you mentioned Obi-Wan there. I mean, the bit that stood out to me was when he first faces up against Darth. It's nighttime, and he gets his ass handed to him. The lights that are shining on their faces are coming off their sabers because they were practical lights, and when they hit them, the sparks are real. They were set up so it would connect and it would complete the circuit and it would spark. And
that was a brilliant move on their part.
It's fantastic.
Just, I mean, it made the fangirl in me just absolutely cry. Because it was everything that I loved about Star Wars, science fiction.
So that feeling, that feeling in your stomach that you had when Star Wars.
It was everything that it was like, okay, you guys have really heard, and it really helped that the characters were well written, the stories were well written, and I think it's the thing that too often I have felt writing falls to the wayside for special effects. The practical falls to the wayside for special effects. Hey, I love a good battle with 3,000 characters. There's nothing like, you know, Helm's Deep and watching all that. Fabulous. But I also want to have the story, and I want to have, you know, I want all that. Maybe I'm selfish.
You want a connection to the character.
I want all of that. And so, you know, there is some stuff that I watch that is absolute schlock. There's no question. I'm a huge fan of John Waters too. So, I really do have a strange eclectic taste. And so depending on what my mood is that I want to be able to watch it. But if you're going to give me all this content, please give it to me. Give me something to chew on. I agree. And so I appreciate that. And then I'll segue to the 77 because I actually feel that one of the things that I've so loved about this partnership that we've had with the 77, and ever since I've met Ben, and I have my collection of all of the comics going back to the first one, because I've been collecting all of it since then is I love all these different varieties and feeds all the different sides to me. And I'm one of the ones who buys the art from them. And so I'm just waiting to frame all of it now. And I love that. And I love the fact that they feed the different sides of the animals in me, because I have apparently several different animals in me.
Yeah, I'm the normally I fall back on the horror stuff quite a lot. So this Comic is Haunted, which obviously just came out recently, I backed that as well, and that came last week. Thoroughly enjoyed that, but I still massively enjoy the other things as well. Like you said, it's the mix of things. It's it feeds all of the animals, as you said.
All the animals in the zoo.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Of which I need to say, of course, this Comic is Haunted #3 is now available in the store, 77comic.net, and Pandora has just gone to reprint as well. So while we're waiting for the next installment, we've reprinted that as well. So yes, fantastic. People buy them. We have to reprint them. There's never a problem there at all.
So Richee, we keep talking on and off about possible music career. You had a music career, or you were working on it. Let's talk a little about your relationship with Testament.
Oh yeah.
I happened to catch the "Your Love Keeps Lifting Me Higher," and
Thank you. Ready? This next one's from 1969. I'm going to recreate it using my RC505 Mark II loop station. It goes like this.
He did a great job, but the whole video was beautiful.
Thank you.
How did you meet Testament? How are you working with him? And I think you're working on something new with him or something.
Yeah, working on a few things together. So so Testament, or Andy as I know him, he came up my radar maybe about 6 years ago. I got asked by the wife of the guy who did the voiceovers for the Lifeboat trailer. She runs a theatre company, and he was bringing one of his new stage shows to life. He was rehearsing it at the time. It was a show called what was it called? Blake Revisited, I think it was called. Blake Remix, that was it.
Okay.
Where he took the famous writer Blake, and he basically reinterpreted his work for modern Britain. The Tiger Burning Bright, all of that sort of stuff. So he reinterpreted for sort of more of a British urban sort of feel. So I got asked to go and shoot some extra stuff for him for the trailer, and some of the stuff he's going to use for the projections.
Tiger, tiger, burning mics. From the terrace and high rise, what immortal tag or rhyme could play thy freshest, sickest beat? In what dimly ends or place burnt the vinyl for the breaks? On what wall dare he bomb? What the hand dare what scratch the song? And what shoulder pull the freeze could twist windmills into dreams? And when that dream starts to MC, what dope rhymes, what dope beats?
So I met him there, and then we sort of just kept encountering each other on and off. Then it turned out that he in fact lives in the next village away from me.
Oh,
So he lives in
Sweet.
Brickhouse. Yeah, he lives in Brickhouse, which is just I could drive to his house in what, like 5-6 minutes maybe. So we got talking about various things, and he was looking for someone to shoot that particular at the Liverpool Philharmonic. And I went along and I shot it for him, and we started plotting a little bit, and found out that we shared a lot of, although we knew each other in past, and we shared a lot of similar sort of sensibilities. He being a mixed race rapper originally from London, and then grew up in Manchester. He said to me that most people don't realize that he's, or don't presume, because of the hip hop culture, that he's a massive old school horror fan. So 80s horror especially, loves John Carpenter, things like that. So we've got to talk about a lot of things. And he's a screenwriter, a rapper, spoken word performer, you name it, he does it. And he's a incredibly interesting guy, very, very socially aware. There's a lot of one of his shows, this was before the term became a sort of poison word, but he wrote a show a few years ago called Walk. It was basically about feminism and equality in just life.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a great show. Anyway, we got talking, and he decided that he's gonna, he said, look, Rich, he said, right, I need to do more stuff with you, right? Can you we work on some sort of horror film or something together? I was like, yeah, all right, okay, cool. So he's writing me a short. I'm going to direct it. We're going to pull in a lot of talent. He's been recently talking to a few people he knows within the industry, because he knows an incredible amount of people. It's ridiculous. I went with him the other week. There's a spoken word and poetry festival in Leeds called May Contain Strong Language, it's called. Well, anyhow, it's on every year. It's really good. And it was at the House Assembly Rooms in Leeds, which is this incredible Victorian room above a Victorian theatre. And it's put on smaller shows. And then he said to me, look, it's a BBC Radio 4 interviewing me for it. But as part of the festival, they've decided they're going to do the interview live on stage with an audience, broadcasted straight out of the BBC Radio 4.
Ooh.
Said, can you come along and afterwards we'll go out and talk about this film? So I go along, and I'm sat in the front row. He does his performance, various people interviewed, and he's sat next to Toby Jones, if you know Toby Jones.
Yeah.
He's in the Marvel films. Toby Jones is sat next to him, and he's just chatting with Toby, and then afterwards he's like, I will go backstage, we'll have a chat with him. And I'm just in the green room with all of these like Hollywood actors and very well-known British TV guys. So he has these like connections, and he's working tirelessly to just collaborate with people constantly, and he really wants to like bring some of these people in. He's been talking to a few different actors who would potentially get in there. All of his work does have that sort of social awareness to it, whereas I always have that at the back of my mind, but it's never been the focus. So it'll be interesting to see what he comes up with. We're meeting up very soon anyhow to talk about some things, because he's had a few other things on. He's just wrote if any of you saw a new season of Castlevania on Netflix, he wrote one of the episodes of that recently. I think it's episode 6 or 7, I think he wrote. Yet again, old school video game guy. Most people presume, he isn't. But he's been really busy lately. It's 50th anniversary of hip hop, and he's been doing a lot of stuff with that. He's been he talked a lot about how he became more successful as a rapper when he ditched trying to put an accent on, and he just stuck with his own. If you guys have ever had any sort of like over here, it's mainly sort of like grime and garage rap, which is a very English thing. Dizzy Rascal, people like that. That British accent comes through like hugely, rather than trying to replicate the sort of like East or West Coast sort of thing going on. So he's a big purveyor of that, and trying to get breakout artists in the region sort of through. But we're getting together soon. I'm going to get this film written, I think, because it turns out he's not under the surface. He's not a cool rapper. He's a massive dork like me. So heads of a feather and all that.
Okay.
I love it.
Vicky, any questions? Keep going. Let's go.
Well, you talked a little bit about you were adopted and you adopted your son, and I noticed that you really support adoption charities.
You've done your research.
Yes, I did. I dug deep into your life.
Oh no!
I dug deep to SkyNews.com and got the article that your wife wrote.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's on the screen right now, by the way. If you want to zoom in your eyes and look like this, it's on the screen right now. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you see it? Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I wanted to give you a platform. I know several people who've been adopted, and I actually seriously considered it myself. We have one child, and we couldn't have any more, but then my sister and her child moved in with us. So I had enough then. That was many years ago. He's now married, or about to be married. So they're all adults now. But I wanted to hear your feelings about adoption and why you are a big proponent of it.
This isn't an unusual question for me, because I go to what are called introduction events for adoption agencies in the region to talk people. It's basically the first point of call where people who think about adopting come along and ask questions, and we'll talk about our experiences. And I know I'd had some encounters on Twitter in the past with. I know there's a huge movement. I know a huge movement in the US. It's sort of anti-adoption sort of rhetoric going on. I don't know if you know a lot about this. Basically, because of the way that adoption works over your way. Over here, it's very different. It was to do about denying them access to their birth families, changing their names, that type of thing. See, over here, do not change their surname. You tell them about their past. They get letterbox access backwards and forwards. That's every 6 months, or from birth family, if it's safe, of course, if they're not horrible people,
right?
A letter can be sent to the adoption agency. They vet it, and then they'll send it to the child, and the child does the same. So that contact's always there. Because as we say over here in the adoption world, we say, sometimes when a child comes to you, the only thing they have is their name. So you do not change it. That's the only thing they have. That is theirs, and it's a link to the past. You can't,
awesome.
And you can't ignore their past. It's part of me. It's all of our past make us who we are. So it's really important. So, basically, I'd always had it in my mind anyhow, because I've never felt the need to have a baby. And my wife's she's always been maternal, but she's never felt a need to be pregnant, which I know a lot of women, they want that experience.
No, I know a lot of people who feel that way, that if they're going to have, my own son feels that way, that he's more inclined to adopt than, because there are so many kids. And in my day job, I deal with Child Protective Services as one of my functions, and there are so many children looking for adoption at various stages and ages, and there's just so many children who are looking for a home. It just feels like we need more people who want to open their homes, and that's all they need is just a place to go and call their own.
Love and stability, it's what it is. For me, it was a no-brainer. As far as me and my wife know, we can have biologically our own children, but we didn't really want to, and we were like, well, if we don't really want to have a baby, and there's kids that really need the love and home, it's a no-brainer. So we decided to adopt, and initially we were going to adopt a younger child. Then we both realized that we really don't like babies.
Diapers are a pain, I will tell you that.
I was like,
I'm a big sister. I changed a lot of them.
Yeah, so when relatives have had babies and they go, do you want to hold them? I'm like, yeah, all right, and I'm kind
of okay, they need to change. Go away.
Yeah. What do you do? Nothing. Brilliant. So we eventually decided to adopt a 5-year-old, because
so Roman was 5. Roman was 5 when you adopted him.
5. Yeah, he was 5. Yeah, so he basically from the age of 7 onwards over here, and that's the point where they start to basically just look at long-time fostering. They basically say, look, right, no, people barely adopt children over that age, which is really sad. So we were like, right, 5-year-old, they're fun. So we looked for a long time, and luckily at the time, this is a good thing for the children, but at the time there was a lot more people wanting to adopt than there was children to adopt. So it was like there was a shortage of children almost, which is really good. There was no change rate of the amount that were in care or anything, but and then now it's flipped the other way. It's a bit of a crisis the other way now. So we had trouble in the local area finding children. And eventually we went to, it was all the social services from the different counties. Because at the time, every county in the UK had their adoption services. Now there's kind of one for a few counties. There's less adoption agencies, but they cover more area now.
Right.
on our tiny little island. So we ended up going down to London, and there was a sort of like an adoption like event on there where you could talk directly to some of the social workers, and they have profiles for the children, tells you basic info about them, doesn't go deep into their past, but tells you about the personality and what they're like, if they have sort of issues that they know of. So we'd already seen his profile somewhere else, and he popped up again. We were talking, and it turned out his social worker was at the event. She got us more information. So we eventually ended up adopting him outside of our county. So he's from Hull, which is still in Yorkshire, but it's East Yorkshire. So Yorkshire's made up of, you've got the 4 areas. You've got your north, south, east, and west. West's the largest part of Yorkshire, where I am. So he was over there. And I can hear him, he's actually whinging in the background right now because he's 14. He's totally go to the bath. And yeah, you know, that was a bit of a mess on because it was between different agencies. I'm going to sort of go back and forwards. But yeah, he came to us when he was 5. He just turned 5. You know, we had that sort of letter support, that backwards and forwards going on quite a lot with family. And, you know, I always say to people, you have this typical view. You hear a child came from a house where both their parents were drug users. You have a view of what those people are like. And guarantee it's totally and utterly wrong, because his birth mum came from a very well-off family, lovely people. She made one silly decision and it just led her down a horrible path. She loved him. She absolutely, but she couldn't look after him. She wasn't a bad person. She couldn't look after him. She couldn't look after herself. But anyhow, unfortunately, a couple of years after we adopted him, both his birth parents actually died. Yeah, but as a result of that, he has contact with his birth family now as well. So he goes and stays with his grandparents over there. So he's got 3 sets of grandparents. Yeah, so he goes. That's
awesome.
Yeah, because they were the people he always talked about. So they were important to him. So, you know, we went when Beth mum died. We went to the funeral, and that was his choice. We were all said, well, we none of our motivations ever to do those. It's to do with him. So we said, you know, basically the way my wife said, she said, look, right, if we said we're not going to go, could you turn around to him when he was a teenager, when he said, why didn't you let me? Could you give him a good reason? And we couldn't. So we decided he wanted to go, so we did. And yeah, he stays with his grandparents all the time. They're absolutely lovely. Retired couple over in East Yorkshire, and there's a lovely big house in a little village. And he stays there all the time. And he sees he's got 3 half siblings, and he sees them as well. He's the youngest. The rest of them are all in their mid to late 20s. So he's got a big brother and 2 big sisters, and he gets to see them when he goes over as well. And it just, you know, it's what he needs, and they're lovely people and they're part of our family now. So, you know, and it's just, yeah, it's just something we've always really sort of enjoyed being involved with. You'll have probably seen the campaigns, the adoption campaign stuff we did, the promos. Yeah, that was down in London. We had to go down there and get filmed for all of that. And we've sort of some of the poster children.
It's been
a lot of fun.
Yes, a lot of fun. Yeah. No, it's been great. It's been great since Rums came to live with us. Yeah, I've never had that sort of feeling that I wanted a baby.
So we're preferential adopters. Yeah. So that basically means that we, as far as we know, we could have had a baby ourselves, but actually we wanted to adopt.
My thinking was that there's a lot of the children out there that need homes. So, you know, why not adopt? You know, these children need loving families.
It felt at the time like it was a long process, but in hindsight, it was really valuable because we went through training, we had really in-depth conversations with our social worker who we just got along with so well. It doesn't matter that I didn't give birth to Roman, that's not what's important. I'm committed to being his mum and keeping him safe and being the boss, because I am the boss.
There are some places in the US where they allow open adoptions.
Yeah.
I will say that, I mean, in my own family, some of my relatives had children young, and the children were adopted out. Yeah. And one of the things that we've been very lucky with is with all the DNA. Oh, yeah. I have several. I'm one of 67 cousins on one side of the family. Wow. I'm from a very large family.
That's a lot of Christmas presents.
we don't buy Christmas presents. My dad's the oldest of 10 children.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
So, like I said, very large Polish Catholic family.
Yeah.
And so we've had all the missing children have been found.
Wow.
thanks to Ancestry and 23andMe. And so it's been very nice, and we've been able to reconnect, and my aunts and uncles who lost contact with their children now have them again, and now they've got bonus parents and stuff. And I've always felt it was such a shame in this country that, one, there was such a stigma, and two, there was just this, cut, done, over. And I never understood it. And, one of the problems my husband and I had when we were younger, before we had my son, we could never qualify for adopting, because the qualifications for adopting in many places in this country is a little insane. Because, home ownership and, this much money and my health problems. And it was kind of like, what about love and support and good jobs and, and all this stuff. And now with what I do for a living and seeing children, they actually advertise it on the news here, where they'll have, and this children is looking for a forever home. And it's just so, to me, it's so wonderful when I see people who open their hearts and open their loves. And I loving seeing this movement. And I think it's great the way you guys do it, because I think that that's a much healthier alternative. So I just think it's so amazing. And I think what your family has done is just absolutely phenomenal.
Thank you.
So,
thank you. I think one of the major issues you guys probably have over there is such a large country. You've got different rules over different states, so it just gets far too complicated with what you can and can't. Whereas over here, it's just nationwide. One law down south is the same as up north, so it applies across the board, and it makes it a lot simpler. And like you said, it is all about love and home. We have loads of people who used to come to a lot of the talks, and they didn't think they qualified. They were like, "Oh, I got arrested for drunk and disorderly when I was a teenager. Do I qualify?" And it's like, well, yeah, you still do, because you can have a record, but they look at what that particular record is. You know what I mean? Right. It's kind of like you crashed into someone and whatever.
Right? Is it a record or is it a record?
Exactly. Yeah. And what the crime is. I remember there was one heartbreaking time. I had these two fellas came and they were like, "Oh, we just wanted to come along find out because we didn't think that because we were gay we could adopt." And I was like, "Well, yeah, you can. What are you on about?" So, for instance, now friend group. We've got one friend who is a single adopter. He adopted on his own. He doesn't have no partner. My son's friend who lives at the end of our street, Adam, he was adopted. He has two dads. It's just like, can you provide a loving home?
Yes.
Are you not an asshole? Brilliant, you can adopt. Like it's simple as that. And there's all the support afterwards as well. Things you can get. I mean, we're looking at some support at the moment for just various things to do with his school. And that support's kind of like always there. And there's a huge community of people who all sort of help each other as well. And it's lovely. It's really nice. It's really good. And I wish more people sort of did it, and it was a bit easier. Yeah. You hear a lot of stories of kind of like celebrities going overseas and adopting. It's like, why?
There's plenty here.
Yeah, that child definitely needed adopting, but why did you do that? Or did you just want someone who from a different ethnic background so you could kind of look a bit cool? That's kind of the sour taste that I've mouth sometimes with it. I'm like, Madonna, that was it. Yeah, I was like, okay. The motive didn't seem to sit right with me.
Guys, I hate to do this. We're running out of time, and we're up to final questions.
Okay, sorry. I told you I rambled.
No. It was fine.
Oh, I've been helping.
She's been helping. It's not been just you. Yeah. But you know what? Because you were talking to her, Vicky, why don't you give your final question?
What's next?
Oh, I don't know.
I know.
Final question.
That's all of our final.
I'll come up with a different final question, but yeah, go ahead. What's coming up for Richee?
At the moment, trying to basically just pull some more projects, and I'm focusing a lot on doing things that interest me. It's kind of what I've always done in my freelance. I could go out and make a lot of money shooting, wedding videos or other toss or whatever. But
I've done that.
Yeah, it's not fun. So I'm trying to get more involved in the industries, use my skills in other industries that I'm interested in. So comics, video games, that type of thing. I've been talking to a friend of mine recently who I studied at university with on multimedia tech, like I said, multidisciplined. He's now the lead game designer on what game is it? Crisis 4. He's lead designer on that. He's just in the Forza game. He did Deathloop for Arcane. He was living in France at the time, so he's got some cred, this guy now. I've been talking to him a little bit about getting in sort of through the sort of trailer side of things, and then coming in as because in video games especially you have cutscenes in video games which look like films, but and it's animation, it should be directed by a director, but they're not. They're just kind of the writers and the game director, which is a totally different thing, tends to basically say, well, it'll look like this, it'll look like this. They're doing that job, but I don't see why a director couldn't slot in. Like, to me, it's a no-brainer, like how we haven't seen a video game yet where it's like cutscenes directed by Christopher Nolan. Like, it's a no-brainer, you know what I mean? It'd sell and it'd look amazing. And that's kind of like the thing that I'm trying to get in with. I'm trying to sort of look at new avenues that haven't really been explored really generally in the industry. That may come across as a little bit arrogant of me kind of saying, well, this is scripted, I shall do it. But I was talking to the guys. So when I was shooting on those LED sets, like the Mandalorian, when we were having a little play around on those, I was talking to one of the guys in there, and I think what has he just worked on? He just worked on Sandman. He just worked on Sandman.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
Because that was mainly practical, but the stuff which obviously couldn't be practical because, well, you've seen it. That was on those sets. And I was saying to him, I said, so, right, with that, so you've got the guys at this side who are working in the Unreal Engine and they're creating all these beautiful sets. And he's like, yeah. And I said, you've got the director here, right? And he's like, yeah. And I said, well, where's the person in the middle who knows about both of those and can talk to the animators who create the sets to then tell a director what they're doing, and the director can say what he wants? There's almost like a disconnect because it's such a new part of the industry. And he agreed. He was like, yeah, there needs to be someone in the middle. And I was like, well, that's me. Can I have a job? And he was like, there isn't any jobs. And then I went home and cried.
Oh,
but yeah, exploring new things. That's what I'm trying to do. Just generally make a bit of a living at the moment, because it is hard going out there at the moment. But that is generally what I'm trying to do, and then try and get some of this comic done. The problem I have is I have a billion ideas. I have notepads full of short film ideas, which I'm going to probably use some of those for a basis of some stories we might do. Because I'm not really a film writer per se. I can come up with plots and dialogue, but as an actual film writer, I'm not that kind of. I'm a writer director. I'm a director. I'm good at directing, but I'm not very good at writing, so I don't do it. Simple as. I get someone who's good, like Testament, to do it for me.
There you go. So, there you go.
Yeah.
All right. Ben, your new final question.
New final question.
Because the old one we already did.
What are we going to work on next then, Richie?
Whatever you want to, Ben. It's been a pleasure, and I would be more than willing to.
There we go. You see, that's how to get a deal done.
As long as you remember my surname.
There you go. Okay, I have my new improved final question.
Ooh.
It's not really a question. So I understand you have a lot of animals. You have the one behind you, and I think I read in your bio that you think you have too many animals.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone can have too many animals unless you have 10 cats. Then maybe you have too many animals. But I don't think one can have too many animals.
Well, I live in it's a moderately sized house, 4-bedroom house in the middle of the countryside, detached house. So we got front garden, back garden, so we got some space. Yeah. But it basically comes from the fact that all my animals are rescue animals.
Yeah.
So our dog was a Romanian street dog. So she was on the street for the first year of her life. She's a collie. She's insane, as all collies are. And the cats were all various things. And we kind of put a line under it, like, no more animals. We're not getting any more.
Right. But you still do. You get something else. A few months
ago, my wife comes downstairs and she went, Rich. And I went, what? And I know the tone, like I said, we've been together since we were 7.
Yep.
Like, what? She went, I think I've done something bad. I went, what have you done? I think we're getting another cat. I was like, what? Turns out a friend of hers had found a kitten, too young to be away from its mother, abandoned behind a bin. Or a trash can. I use the correct vernacular. There we go. He, this little fella, he was very ill and very poorly, and he got took to a shelter, but there was nowhere for him to stay. So we were like, right, we'll foster him. Yeah. So we fostered him, and that was 8 months ago. So.
And he's still there.
He's permanent, he's staying. He's called Chutney. We have chutney, parsnip, and broccoli. And we did have carrot. Yeah, Carrot was our first cat. And she was given to me by a film producer friend of mine. as a wedding present, actually. But when we got the other animals, she was very solitary, and she didn't like the other animals. So she went to live with one of our friends, and she lives in the countryside in a house on her own now. She spends her days sunning her stomach on the windowsill.
But of course.
Yeah, but there'll be more. More will come.
Okay.
I guarantee more will come. But it's just constant go in this house. With more creatures. At least Steve just sits. He doesn't really do anything really. He just sits there, looks at you. His eyes sort of individually move around like all over the place. He sits on my chest sometimes when I'm working, but all he asks for is some salad and some worms.
Well, there you go.
Cats ask for the moon on his stick.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
Richee, I want to thank you for coming on the show. Before I say goodbye to everyone out there, please look below and hit subscribe on the 77 publications and hit like on this one. You must have liked this episode because you made it all the way through this. So hit like. That's your reward, or our reward for you watching. Ben, any housekeeping you want to do for the 77?
Oh, for sure. So yes, we've got a Kickstarter on for a few more weeks. That's the Kickstarter annual number 2. Please join in the fun. You're going to get it by Christmas. If you back it, we'll be getting them printed only next week. Actually, I think we're going to go to print and get them sent out just after the Kickstarter ends. And the 77comic.net is where you get all your goodies. Everything we've done is there. Reprints, as I said, of Pandora. This comic is Haunted. Lifeboat, of course. It goes on and on now. I know we had it's yeah, thanks very much for supporting us, everybody. Okay. And that's what you do.
If you're interested in other science fiction, Doctor Who, because we're going to have the new seasons coming up, so we're going to be the specials. So we'll be having our next episode will be a Doctor Who centric episode, reviewing The Children in Need and The Star Beast. That'll be on the last week of November. Our review. Go to MarkWHO42.com. That's our website. You can also find our show everywhere around the interweb thingy. Apple, Google Play, Audible, Pandora Radio. Everywhere you find podcasts, you can find our show. All right. So once again, my name is Mark Baumgarten. With me is Vicky Jakubowski, Ben Cullis, and our guest today was Richee Mathwin. Thank you once again, Richee, for coming on the show.
No problem.
All right. So all I can say now is, as Binksy would say, stay lucky. Bye, everyone.